Hello, everybody. We are back from a mild hiatus for Freight Gong Friday. We haven't had this in a couple weeks now, but excited to be back. Paul, what's up?
Not much. Getting into it here on Twitter with STA whistleblowers who is saying that brokers aren't needed. And I think it's fun because he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to do a debate about it. And I wish we could do a Freight Gong live debate first on freight broker transparency, and then the fact that freight brokers aren't necessary. But he doesn't want to talk to us, saying that he wouldn't want to talk to anyone like us. So, or for that matter, anyone that's a freight broker. So,
so he just wants to stay keyboard warrior, basically.
Yeah, this whole week. Let me just share my screen here. So this is what's going on from Twitter. So STA whistleblowers. Kara doesn't need a broker, nothing to do. Also, broker reading the law. Okay, blah, 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 whatever. But he keeps going, just, I don't know, this long thread. Because we posted this meme a couple of days ago. Brokers when rate transparency goes live, and they suddenly forgot what the customer paid. And then there is, it was funny because he wrote this, yes, he was Flores, about like brokers buying G-Wagons, which is hilarious how like Reed memed that into existence, or this perception of that being existing. And then I retweeted that, basically saying we should do a Freight Gong live episode to debate broker rate transparency, SCA exposed UN. And he wrote, let's see here.
Well, if STAA whistleblowers is listening to this, you should definitely take the invitation and come on and state your case. Would love to hear it. Seemingly, there's a poll that a lot of people are against the broker transparency.
Sage Outcast wants to mod a debate. There you go. We should get Sage on here.
I feel like who would be good to have like for and against that. Obviously there's
like, well, a lot of
heated opinions.
A lot of brokers want to appear, but I know let's see here. Matthew Leffler, put me in the game, coach. That would be a good one.
That
good person to have. So
Thomas from Freywaves commented here too. Ken would be a good one too. He's pretty vocal about it as well too.
Dear God, yes. But yeah, and then I guess on Instagram too, there was a lot of comments on this whole debacle of the debate, and I guess a lot of people don't even know that this is like currently like potentially test. So
is this something that's actively being, because I've been a little bit MIA this week with the conference in Berlin. Is this something that the government's actually like bringing up as a point of issue more recently, like this particular week? I know that's come up.
No, it's kind of something that I guess came up because of like STA always tweeting about it, but no.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's been
fun.
That was so there was let's talk about that news related to the additional verification for in basically creating a new carrier. I want to dive into that a little bit more. I think that was in yesterday's newsletter, or maybe today's. No, yesterday's, I think.
Yeah, I could share my screen. So yeah, FMCSA's new ID rules just dropped new authority approvals by over 50%. This is from Karaoke provided this data. Essentially, April 1st was when they began creating this ID verification for if you want to have a new MC. And so there's been a big drop in that. And a Karaoke quote, "This is a major pivot point for the industry. Fraud prevention measures are working, but we're also seeing new friction for legitimate players." So people that are actually, legitimate players that want to create their own MC, create some kind of friction for them, especially if they're not so tech savvy. But at the same time, it's limiting fraudsters from opening up multiple MCs or getting that done. So that's been a good move, and it seems like it got a good interaction or reaction on Twitter. So a lot of people were talking about that yesterday, and that shout out to Karaoke. They actually reached out to us to present that data that they collected, and so
Nice.
yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah.
They could,
That
if people are
seems like a reasonable.
uh,
It seems like a reasonable step of friction to kind of add, just a basic ID check. And I feel like if it's, I imagine that's like through a portal. If you can't figure out how to upload an ID, um, in today's world, that maybe is a justification for you not being able to have an MC. I don't know. That's kind of my thought. What do you what do you think?
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, to some, I guess, degree, I think there should be some kind of process for people that are maybe a little bit older, and they should still have the ability to open up a company, and if they just maybe need some assistance with that, as long as they're legitimate. At the end of the day, I think if you're legit, you're legit.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's the most important aspect of it. But yeah, so if anyone wants to actually read in depth the report, go to freightcavalry.com, yesterday's newsletter, to take a look into what was actually happening here. That was definitely one of the better, I guess, topics that we reported on this week. And it was a shorter week since we didn't have Monday was Memorial Day, so that was a pause. And we haven't had Freight Gong Friday in like 3 weeks, and we're missing Reed today. Reed's somewhere in Atlanta, I think, at some conference, some event. But there's been a lot of stuff happening. We are continuously reporting it on freightcavalry.com, so you could take a look at that. I mean, last week was a huge bust of like the Armenian gang, $83 million cargo theft crew busted. And I'm going to pull this up from Dooner.
And
They literally have a
definitely that
kid.
G-Wagon. Yeah, that G-Wagon is just absolutely defining.
Yeah,
Picture perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on there. Today we are also welcoming Miguel from Moscoso Express. They handle a lot of airport logistics out of O'Hare, and it's going to be a cool conversation to hear about the expedited kind of freight and what they're doing, for pickups at O'Hare. I think that's kind of a part of logistics that I do fascinate with, or I guess I am intrigued by, and I think that there's a lot of aspects of it that I want to learn more about too. So, we'll
14 firearms and 3 armored vehicles is no light operation, I would say, for sure. That seems like, I mean, if you're running a business and you have 3 armored vehicles, unless you're registered and qualified to like move cash legally, I feel like that's just a clear signal that something is going on pretty fishy. So that's pretty crazy.
For sure.
How many fake business registrations do they have? Do you know?
Oh, I don't think anyone knows.
This is crazy.
Yeah,
Justin's going to be joining us too. Justin's going to be joining us in a second too, I think.
All right, cool. Yeah, we need to get some more energy in here.
We do.
If anyone wants to join us, come hit us up. Alrighty.
Feds target violence. So this was this was out in our good old Glendale, California.
Near Glendale, I think it might have been Glendale.
It's pretty. So I guess it seems like that the government is becoming more involved, which is something that we've been hoping for some time. And at least in the recent months, I haven't heard anything like specifically announced by the government per se. Maybe I missed it, but in terms of like a active fraud effort. But I think with maybe the current administration, plus obviously all the effort in the anti-fraud, like from the private sector, you got a bunch of companies pushing for it too. But I wonder if how much of an impact the private, efforts have had on the government, like really cracking down on this stuff. Because the cargo theft element of, fraud is, at least the last time I checked, it was something like $15 billion a year. But maybe that number has changed. I feel like it's actually increased.
$15 billion a year.
Yeah, FBI a couple of years ago reported that they estimate it's about $15 billion of cargo theft a year, which is
Do you have
insane.
do you have like a source for that? Just because like I don't want to.
Yeah, I think it was like from the FBI. It was a while ago, so
I think TIA was reporting like 800 million a year ago.
All right, let me try to find it real quick.
Before we tell the audience a number and they start quoting us, I think it'd be best to verify that. Or we just tell them that this is not information that you want to double check.
This is for sure something I read. I just need to find the article for it. But it came from it might have been like 10 years ago, but the let's see here. Justin, what's up? Is he in here? There we go.
Alrighty. Yeah, Sage, you want to get in here? Should we get Sage in here, Justin, or no?
Sure, go.
I won't tell you how to run it.
What do you think?
No.
I think we should bring him on, and just like if anything, we could just get him out if we feel like we don't want him.
Okay, so I do have the link, but it's actually much older than I thought. It's from 2006. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the comments here. But I can also show it. It's from 2006, so it's actually much older than I thought. But I will share it here. 1 second. So
Yeah, strong solo.
Justin, your mic for some reason, like the first second when you speak something is like kind of off, and then it clears up. That's weird.
it's not great. So this is from FBI's own website. It's from the archive, so this is definitely older. It is older. I thought it was like 10 years ago, but it's even more than that. But
there we go. I switched mics. How's that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Wait, cargo theft is estimated in 2006 to be between 50 and 30 billion.
Yeah. Wow. So I imagine actually I can't. I don't know if it got worse since then or if it got better since then.
Sure,
but
worse. I think every year it's only been worse.
That's what I feel like is that based on things that we've reported in the past, that like the graphs that we've shown from I think it was CargoNet, it just like the amount of theft and fraud just kept growing over time. So potentially it's in that ballpark, but yeah, this is from the FBI's own website itself. So granted, it is older, but yeah.
Wait, okay, so Sage just sent me a link to his YouTube page. I had no idea, like, he had so many followers on YouTube and so many, like, he streamed something live and it got 14,000 views. Justin, do you know this?
Sage. Good for
Yeah,
you.
he's been around on YouTube for a bit.
Okay, I didn't know he's so popular on YouTube.
Does that change our stance on whether we should bring him on?
I sent him the StreamYard thing. I'm not sure if he's going to join or not, but I sent it to him.
Sage, you should join.
You don't know Sage, though, Christian. You don't know Sage.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. He's a little bit unhinged, but I mean, maybe that's what we need right now.
Maybe so.
Yeah. I done one interview with him. Well, not like on his show. It was. Oh boy, which show was it? It's like the truck drivers recruiting show on Freight Waves. Justin, do you know that one?
The driver recruiting show on Freight Waves?
The Freight Waves took a show. It's, I think Charlie runs it.
Oh, Charles Gracie? Cents per mile?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was me and Sage on it before, and yeah, Sage. I mean, he's a character for sure. I think he's blocked like a lot of people, or people block him from our community. So, but I mean, I'm always for an interesting conversation. So
Also, your mic is way better now, Justin. Too.
Yeah, it was picking up my AirPods originally, not my nice studio mic.
Yeah, that's a significant difference.
I was trying to ask earlier, does this shirt make me look like a strong solo?
Oh,
maybe if you're like in Odessa in the summertime on a boat You just gotta have a captain hat on. That's what you're missing.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
that what
wearing
you
a
were
hat
going
today.
for, Justin?
I was going for I've lost 50 pounds and I need to find a shirt that fits me.
Look at that. Congratulations. Is that part of the Michael Lombard trucker diet program?
I could easily translate my diet to like an over the road diet if I needed to. But yeah, definitely, it is hard to stay fat around Lombard. I will say that the man is relentless.
He is. I like the stuff that he's doing now too. I think there definitely has not been any advocate for like trying to, at least publicly that I've heard of, that is really trying to push like driver health on the road. It is really hard to stay healthy on the road. Like
And especially with him because it's a lot of these guys like Dr. Mark Monero and stuff. They might have awesome like backgrounds and stuff, but like they're not drivers. They're their own healthcare professionals, like trying to coach guys. Whereas Lombard's like, I have been you. I was in the seat. I ran 6 miles a day every time I parked the truck. If there's anyone that can show you that it's possible, it's Lombard.
yeah,
Dude, I've been thinking of getting a CDL and like driving, or like a CDL in Europe and like driving around and like creating content. And I feel like I just like have my bike with me because I bike a lot, and I'll just like have it, and then I just like would park up the truck and then just go bike for like a few hours. I don't know like how feasible that would be, but like I need a lot of movement every day. I just like I can't sit for a long period of time.
You get very comfortable like making up excuses for yourself because like I had a bicycle when I was over the road. I had it strapped to the back of my truck, and I was hardly ever on the damn thing. So I spent a lot of money on that bike too. I bought it from some hippies at a bicycle shop in Indiana years ago, and they customized it. They put a nice new seat on it, all new rubber tires and everything, and it was a nice. But I still have the bike. It's in my basement. I've had the thing for 20 years now.
Nice. There you go. Here, I'm gonna have Elizabeth's almost about to join. I'm gonna have her added to the studio. Hey, Elizabeth. Good morning.
Hello,
Morning.
everyone. Good morning.
good morning.
How's Chicago doing today?
It's doing great. We are expected to have sunny days, and we've been cloudy the past few, so it's going to be a great day.
Awesome. How's the freight market out there?
It's looking healthy. It's looking healthy. It's looking better now.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on today and talking a little bit about Moscoso Express and everything that you all do. Can you give us a quick breakdown of the company and what your role is?
Perfect. So Moscoso Express is a 21-year-old asset provider in the Chicago ORD area. We're focused on first and final mile out of ORD.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about airport logistics for us, like freight brokers and carriers that are listening in. Like, what's different with airport logistics compared to like other, I would say, shipments?
That's a very good question. With airport movements, you end up really having to have the security background. So your drivers have to have certain background checks done so that way we can go into the airline. So if we think about it from whenever you go take a plane, whenever it's time to catch your flight, you end up going through TSA. Our drivers do something similar. They end up going through their own version of TSA, and they end up making sure that they have whatever background is needed to be able to access the airport cargo. And then from there, we also have to know what we're talking about whenever we end up doing airway bills. Every single, if you think about it also just from yourself, you end up checking into the airport and you end up getting your boarding pass. Every single piece of cargo that goes in and out of the airport has its own version of a boarding pass. And so by having their own little version of a boarding pass, we have to understand how to read the cargo's boarding pass. Did we check in on time? Did we get screened? Are we at the right airline? So all of these things that you end up entering into the airport and having these type of similar struggles. Am I at the right gate? Did I bring my carry-on the right size? Did I check in my luggage? Is my tag in place? Did I get economy or did I get first class? Things like that. The same thing applies to cargo. And so therefore, we just have to make sure that we end up getting all of our documents all in order before we enter.
I love like the airport side logistics just because my father worked for Eagle Air Cargo for over 20 years, and they're based in Chicago. And so I spent a lot of time like going to offices and like hanging out with him. And I've always just like loved the airport in general, like because of travel and stuff like that. And so I do have like this. I guess I'm like this kind of somewhat fascinated with airport logistics. And I'm curious, like, do you typically work with brokers? Or are you working directly with airlines? How does that look like?
Yes, so primarily we work with freight forwarders. Freight forwarders are your brokers for the international world. So whenever there's cargo coming in and out of the airport, it could be coming in and out of. So, for example, it's leaving Japan, it's leaving China, it's leaving Germany, it's leaving Spain, it's going to South Africa. So, all of these different countries around the world that are sending cargo in and out are having to get documents processed. Customs has been quite interesting these past few weeks. And so therefore, all of those things have to get processed by freight forwarders. And so those are our clients primarily.
Interesting.
Elizabeth, how have you seen with some of the regulatory and tariff changes? Has there been any material difference in how drivers are checked or vetted, or any additional requirements during this process? Because it seems like that, some of the border focus, obviously, there's been a bigger border focus over the last couple months, monitoring things coming in and out. So are your drivers having more strict requirements at all for any of their checks?
We have not seen any difference in the way in which they have their background checks passed from our side. We submit the same application still. And again, all these changes have recently occurred. And so therefore, potentially it hasn't trickled down quite yet, but we haven't heard of anything quite yet.
Got it. And how are you seeing the tariffs potentially impact any? Are they impacting any part of your business or freight forwarders? I mean, we know that they're impacting freight forwarders in general, and is that trickling down, to your business as well?
So the way we could say it is we can look at it from a whole ecosystem. If it's impacting one part of the body, it will eventually trickle down all the way to the consumer. So from the manufacturer, that one that obtains even the raw products, you could say, all the way down to the end consumer, it will impact. Now, similar to whenever tax codes are changed or anything like that, like it takes a while. Whenever you do anything with that impacts financially, it takes a little bit to trickle down and go through the processes. However, yes, the answer directly to your question is yes, we do see it. Initially, when it happened, what we ended up seeing is, or whenever we saw beginning talks of it, we ended up seeing manufacturers try to increase their inventory in the States. And so we got busy, very busy. There was a surge, and everyone was trying to get their items into customs bonded warehouses. So all of a sudden, everyone was getting called about customs bonded warehousing space and things of that nature. Warehouses that were customs bonded were filled to the rim, things of that.
What's a customs bonded warehouse?
Yeah.
So it is a warehouse. So I'm not quite an expert in this. So if I misspeak, apologies. But just at a very high level, it is a warehouse where you can put your cargo in, and then you don't pay your tariffs, your charges to enter the country, even though you're physically inside. Now, depending on how the actual freight is brought in, it will depend on what type of tariffs or charges you end up paying. If depending on the codes that you submit it with, you end up paying the tariffs at time of entry or at time of export or exit from that customs bonded warehouse. But because there's flexibility in that, there's a lot of companies that may want to make educated decisions and guesses as to what could overall be their benefit. And so depending on the value of the freight that's also being put in there, which will impact the charge, one can make a better decision. Again, working collaboratively with your customs broker at that time.
Sure.
I'm seeing a lot of Facebook posts asking about how do I find a bonded warehouse or how do I start one from a lot of like Amazon resellers, because they'll import entire shipping containers worth of goods, and they don't want to eat those import fees up front. They just want to pay it as those orders are going out. So yeah, that's a hot business right now.
That's interesting. So but then they're not actually I guess getting ahead of the tariffs, right? Because if they're just going to be, if they're not paying a tariffs when it arrives to the U.S., they're storing in a custom bonded warehouse. They're gonna it's gonna be whatever tariff it is when they actually have to take it out.
Yeah. Instead of paying the import duties on everything in that box all up front and eating that cost, they can just charge it bit by bit on top of whatever storage fees that warehouse is charging them.
And is that because of the uncertainty of knowing what the tariff will be? Because it might be
Yeah.
lower next week, right? Because if they had this idea or belief that it's going to be a higher tariff, that they probably just would pay it up front from them.
Yeah, and I think, again, don't quote me on this. There's other guys that would know, but I'm pretty sure that tariff, whatever you're having to pay, is based on the date it arrived here off the boat. So whatever that, because it's like every day they're switching the tariffs on, switching them off, switching them on, and everyone's like, no, you're still paying these tariffs. You're not getting around it.
Interesting.
That's so fascinating.
I would have thought that it was advantageous to use a custom bonded warehouse to kind of be able to do distributions in small chunks at the time at which a tariff, for example, lowers. That would be a really good strategy, but it doesn't seem like that's the case.
It can backfire, because if you import all this product and nobody's buying it now because of the tariffs, you're getting eaten alive with the storage fees having it in that warehouse now.
Interesting.
So, Elizabeth, in terms of O'Hare, can you tell us a little bit about the logistics side of that? O'Hare is a massive airport when it comes to cargo, one of the largest in the U.S. What's getting shipped via airplane into Chicago? And what are the main destinations? Do you have I guess a list of the most popular destinations, or I guess origins, with Chicago being the destination, and what kind of products have to get shipped by plane here? Usually they're high value, I assume.
They are products that have some level of high value, as you mentioned, as well as some time-sensitive nature to them. So you can still send high-value cargo over ocean. However, it has to be this perfect combination of value with also urgency, time-sensitive nature to it. So that way, product gets distributed faster. And so with air cargo, things that we see heavily are related to the manufacturing space. And so we are bringing in products, materials, whether it's end products final, ready for consumer distribution. So it's still going to a warehouse to get further distributed. Or maybe it's materials that are going to a manufacturing facility that's in the US, so that way they can continue producing. However, anything that goes in and out right now, because of all the discussion of the tariffs, it is being, to a certain level, just discussed, we'll put it that way. So that way people can make sure that they get it appropriately at the right time. And a lot of very strong business decisions have to get made, so that way they can do that. The other item is biggest destinations. One of our greatest trade partners for America as a whole is China. And so therefore, that is what I would say is one of the biggest ones. It also depends on what type of clientele we have. And so again, being that it's manufacturing facilities, we get a lot of products from Japan as well, as they are great at providing manufactured goods and pieces and parts for then further assembly in the US in manufacturing facilities.
Yeah, I once watched this TV show where it was explaining how fish get caught in Japan in the morning, and then they go directly to the airport and they get shipped to Chicago, and the finest restaurants in Chicago have Japanese fish that was fished that morning in Japan. And I'm curious, do you ever do produce, or I would say fish or that kind of stuff? Do you do that kind of those last mile deliveries, or no?
We actually don't get into food too much, but what we do actually is more on the health side. So sometimes we're transporting items that are on dry ice or in biocontainers, and inside there's healthcare related items that are very important for research as well as just medical procedures. So we do see that time sensitive nature in a different way.
Sure. Interesting. And
I actually used to pick up MRI scanners and CT scanners out of, it was for a 3PL, but it was right next to O'Hare, and they were basically using air transport to bring that in from Germany. I believe it was originally for like Siemens, and it's a lot of it is medical, a lot of it is some of it's maybe pharmaceutical as well too. But I know the Envirotainer, that company has like rocketed in the last couple of years. It was a super popular product that was being purchased and used to transport temperature sensitive goods. Is Elizabeth, is the Envirotainer? Are you seeing that the Envirotainer is being used by a lot of the companies that you do business with?
Yes, we currently have one in one of our trailers, actually.
Okay.
So yes, it is very useful for the pharma space. Just how you said, temperature control is very big, but sometimes you're moving smaller pieces of cargo. And so we can put it into now a non-refrigerated unit, and the Envirotainer has a great, strong battery life. And so therefore, as long as it's charged, it can last and maintain that temperature for quite a long time. Long enough for us to be able to make local movements, regional even to a certain extent. So we're going out close to even Louisville, Kentucky, and we're still able to maintain that temperature. So really great novel technology.
Yeah, it's a container. So at the end of the day, if one wanted to, somebody could, in theory, ship that via a ship as well too, right? Or is it not recommended?
Due to the battery life, I would not know, but I wouldn't know. But just something to keep in mind that it does require a battery.
Got it. That's got to be a pretty big, sizable battery.
Yeah, I'm sure there's many solutions out there.
Elizabeth, this is a really cool photo right here.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about like the picking up of like freight at the airport? Because here I see like I'm assuming this is like the driver for Moscoso Express. Like he's actually on the runway at O'Hare.
Yes.
Is that typical? Like, is that how it usually looks like the pickup? Because for some reason, my conception was, all right, someone's going to take this freight and bring it into like a warehouse at the airport, and then they're just going to load the driver. But it doesn't seem like that's the case.
Yes, so it all depends on the urgency of the cargo and what airport we're at. So, especially during the COVID times, you could say there was a very high peak. And so the quicker we can get freight out of the airport space, the better it was for everyone. So we have to remember that certain airlines, they have just a certain quantity of roads going into it. And so there automatically will be bottlenecks throughout the process. And so what we end up trying to do is making sure that we can get it in and out as soon as possible. For this specific project, we were plane side, and as they were offloading the cargo from the plane, they were loading it right into our trailers. And so that is how we ended up also being able to capture this beautiful picture. We were waiting, again, all about speed. We want to be there before our appointment time. We want to be there before the plane arrives. And so that's what we end up trying to do. So we had arrived and we waited until the plane arrived, which of course wasn't too much, but just right enough. And then the plane was offloaded and loaded the cargo automatically into our trucks as well, making it the smoothest.
Yeah. And you did mention that it depends on which airport you go to. So which airports besides O'Hare do you do pickups at, or I guess maybe deliveries at?
So it all depends on the hot shipness of it. So we've gone to even very small airports. Again, it all depends on what type of cargo we're talking about. So here we would be talking about much larger sizes, PMCs. And so at smaller ones, maybe it's an individual. Again, we do express, so we do really hot shipments type also. And so for that, it's every second counts type of mentality. And so even small planes, they land in small airports. We are there, we pick up the cargo, and then we take it somewhere else. With our smaller trucks, we have straight trucks as well as tractor trailers. And then we also do pickups from O'Hare and Rockford. Rockford was also, again, during COVID. There was just so much volume coming into O'Hare that many companies decided to start using Rockford. It's another entry point, and we are able to get in and out of the airport quite fast. So although Rockford is a little bit ways away, we're able to get in and out of that one and return back to the O'Hare region sometimes faster than what we're able to do at O'Hare.
Oh, wow. How long does a driver typically spend, like if they go into O'Hare? I know it varies based on which time we're in, like whether it's COVID or right now. But if right now a driver goes to O'Hare, how long are they typically spending at the airport before they are able to leave fully loaded?
Many factors depend on that. So some airlines, you could say in time, what time are we going there? Is it normal? Like, is it 8 to 5? Like, is it 9 to 6? You could say like these time ranges are pretty popular. But if we're going in there more towards the evening side, we can get in and out faster. So if we're going midday, we're probably seeing 4 hours. If we're going towards the end of it, we're probably seeing 3 hours. We're not including also any type of paperwork mishap. So again, going back to Paul's first question of airport, like air freight, it requires a lot of paperwork and all the I's dotted and T's crossed. And so therefore, any little gap, any questionable item, we can easily be rejected. We can easily be asked to put the cargo back into the truck and wait for further direction.
Is there a standard set of paperwork that all airports have, or does every airport have like different paperwork, different check boxes to check? I mean, it's all probably somewhat similar, but is there any standardization behind any of this?
Yes, there's actually an IATA organization. So yes, the TSA, Borders, all of these organizations, they work together and they end up having standards. And so this airway bill is kind of like a plane's boarding pass, cargo's boarding pass. And so therefore that's your standard. And then you also have other documents that are very standard in nature. And so there's certain TSA documentation that's needed from a known shipper. So that way they can say, yes, I have enough knowledge and I did all my needed paperwork and I have been vetted. So that way I can give permission to other trucking carriers to take cargo that I am overseeing, I am in charge of, making sure it gets from point A to point B. So that way it can get loaded on the plane. So not only do we need paperwork for the cargo itself, we need paperwork for the individual company that's actually overseeing the shipment of it all, in addition to ourselves being documented as well.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, there's a really hot topic right now around fraud, like cargo fraud and in general fraud across the industry. What kind of measures are there in place that help prevent that fraud from taking place at the airport? Like you'll hear oftentimes, not in the non-airport case, where the driver may pose as somebody else. They'll come in maybe early for the check-in, and then they'll pose as the carrier that should be doing the pickup, but end up driving away with cargo that is not theirs. Does the airport have like really, really rigorous checks for this stuff? Is fraud even common, or does it happen at airports?
Yes, I would definitely say that if it happens anywhere else, it's also happening in the airport as well. And so what we end up doing to prevent that is not only just having great paperwork, but a lot of checks and balances. And so our company drivers that are going there, they're screened and they are pre-screened, they are verified, and that Varut symbol represents that other drivers that we are sending in. So these are drivers that have been pre-screened. They end up getting trained on TSA rules and regulations, and then they are the ones that are pre-approved to be making these pickup and deliveries. The paperwork, the standardized paperwork also helps bring in that regulation. So all systems behind the scene communicate, and therefore the airline knows that they are expecting to be receiving certain paperwork that matches. And TSA, in addition to the cherry on top, is also TSA is always there. So TSA has, especially in O'Hare, they have an office that's right next to the airport, customs bonded. Therefore, they're always in the area.
So we now have we've noticed there's a few more people from the government that either subscribe to our newsletter or watch or consume our content, which is great. We're happy that what we make is of value to them. And one question that I would have for you is, given that some of these people may be listening, is there anything in terms of recommendations or like a wish list that maybe you'd have in terms of making the airport logistics element of this more efficient? Is there anything that seemingly doesn't seem like it should be working the way it is, and there's a better way to do it? Maybe you can share something on that.
Unfortunately, it's not for that they primarily are in charge of. The only thing that I can think of is working our way towards paperless, working our way towards being able to go and be paperless. There's many times where the airway bill, the flight changes, we're not screened, or there's not enough time, or there's just changes. There's piece count changes. And in certain locations, they don't allow us to email an updated airway bill or email updated documents. We have to show up with updated paper copies. Some locations also require us to show up with 2 copies. So, and this could also just be for pickup. So this isn't like the paperwork that's going to go with the cargo to go on the plane. This is literally just even for pickup. So although not part of that individual's rule or anything like that, that's one opportunity for improvement. Also, the way in which we design our airports, airport design is so important and crucial, so that way we can get in and out. Having very few entry points, and if it's the same entry and exit point, it makes it difficult for congestion. If there's a way to go in and then out somewhere else, it kind of helps with the flow of traffic. But again, all of these things are very major things that it's more of a system and the way in which we look at these systems and we design. But whoever is out there wanting to build an airport, please consider that.
Is it actually a material problem with the congestion right now? Like, I guess during peak hours, like 9 to 5, for example, is it causing drivers to wait, an extra hour, 2 or 3, or maybe more?
It just gets tricky. We're talking about very large pieces of equipment. It's not like a car where you can just kind of like maneuver through. We're talking about very large pieces of equipment. And when there's long lines, there's only so much space that a driver can turn around in. So if, let's just say, driver has to get to this airline, and as he's driving, he's like, oh, that's the airline I have to get to. I have to turn around. Granted, with experience, this wouldn't happen, but let's just say new driver, new to the area. If he passes it for any reason to turn around, he just has to maneuver through. And if there's a lot of congestion, then you don't have the space to really maneuver through. And it can take time. But again, that's where the expertise in understanding the airport is really key. Some locations only receive cargo for certain airlines. Some locations only provide cargo. So whether you're picking up or you're delivering, you really have to know what airline and where they're located and stay up to date. You really have to also stay up to date, because maybe last year they were at Tower A, and now this year they're at Tower D. And so those details really come into key. Again, working as Moscoso Express does time sensitive cargo. And so therefore, if we're in a time sensitive crunch, we don't want to end up waiting in line, and then being told, actually, this is just to deliver. If you want to pick up cargo, you have to go to this other location and make a new line.
So, are you only going to O'Hare? Do you go to other airport like UPS facilities or FedEx?
Yeah, so in O'Hare, UPS has a location there that's you could say a little intricate to get into. It's kind of fun. The fun space of the airport. We also go to Rockford, and that's those are the primary two. If we're bringing stuff back from other cities, we're going out to the Indianapolis airport. We're going out to Louisville, Columbus, Ohio, Detroit. So sometimes it's faster to get a flight because planes have schedules. And so therefore the scheduled plane that's leaving Germany maybe arrives to Louisville, Kentucky a little bit faster. And so therefore we get there and then we drive it up. Or Indianapolis. Indianapolis is very close by. Maybe that flight arrives into Indianapolis and then we're able to pick up and still deliver it to the end client in a faster way than waiting for the next flight to arrive to O'Hare.
Nice. Yeah, my last route with the post office. I used to drive truck for the post office, and the airplane for UPS that leaves from Louisville to Philadelphia that brings all the airmail coming in. That was my route. Every night around 10 p.m., I'd pull around the back of the Philadelphia airport to the UPS terminal, and they have that like system perfected. As soon as that plane lands, within 5 minutes, those cans are off the plane in their warehouse. They have a crew of about 100 guys just breaking everything down, slinging sacks of mail by zip code, and there'll be anywhere from 10 to 15 trucks on the loading docks, everything from other UPS employees, mail contractors, USPS trucks. And if everything's running fine and they didn't have like a ton of call-outs that day, they can have a plane unloaded and on the trucks in like 2 hours.
That's amazing.
It took you 30 minutes to let us inform everyone of here that you used to do airport logistics as well. Only 30 minutes.
Oh, very, very, very small. It was
like in the background. We're talking about airport logistics, and all of a sudden, Justin, I used to pick up mail from the Philadelphia airport.
Doing what I called airplane or airport logistics. It does not do it justice. I was at the UPS terminal or on the back end, so I didn't have to do the TSA checkpoints or nothing. I literally just pulled in through the gate, gave them my number. They knew who I was, and I didn't even get like a bill of lading or anything. It's all digitized. It's all in the systems. They scan everything on the trucks now, and then away you go.
That's interesting. Elizabeth, so majority of the paperwork or the transactions that you deal with, from my understanding, they are not at all digitized today. It's all physical paperwork at this point that needs to get labeled, needs to get exchanged, needs to be copied. Like, is that a correct understanding? Like
So
at the airport.
Yes. So for checking in as a truck driver, as at the moment, yes, for papers. But there's a lot of things that are digitized in the back end systems for the actual planes, for the cargo, because we're talking about international flights as well. And so there's a lot that's digitized, but it's again, it just has to trickle its way down a little bit further.
So, I know, Elizabeth, we were supposed to have you on here for 20 minutes. It's been 30 minutes, and we want to do a full-length episode podcast with you to learn more about your story, and I think we're going to save some other questions for that and about the history of the company as well, because I think that there's an interesting story there as your father started the company. Mm-hmm. So I do appreciate your time. Is there any last, I don't know, maybe thoughts or things you'd like to tell our audience about what you all do?
Moscoso Express, we're in Elk Grove. We're right outside of O'Hare. I'll just restate what we already stated. First and final mile providers. We do local movements here around the Chicagoland area, as well as regionally, FTL, all the way out to the nearest cities. So the neighboring states, nearest cities. So we're talking about Indianapolis, Detroit, Michigan, Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Ohio, some cities, as well as Louisville, Kentucky. So those are the primaries. Of course, on the west side, we have Des Moines, we have St. Louis. So major hubs where we can deliver, as well as, again, because we're FTL EUV, exclusive use vehicle, we can get to anywhere, right? It's a truck. As long as there's a safe road to drive on, we can deliver.
Love that. Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story. And if you're a broker or freight forwarder listening in and need some help with airport logistics, definitely reach out to Moscoso Express.
Thanks
Elizabeth.
everyone.
Good talk to you.
All right.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so up until I think the 70s, the Postal Service had its own fleet of jets that would like haul airmail, and to save costs, they just went ahead and contracted everything out. So UPS hauls airmail, FedEx hauls airmail. There's a couple other private fleets that do as well, but like nowhere near the volume. When I was there, we had a warehouse called Metro Air, and that's all they did was we just showed up with trucks of mail that's already sorted. They would have guys inside the warehouse that would cram all that mail onto the cans that go like into the fuselage of the jets, and then another truck from them would take it to the airport to get loaded on the airplanes.
All right, Justin, it's time for us to interrogate you.
Okay.
All right. Well, what year did you become a truck driver?
2007, October 2007.
Okay. And then what company did you start at?
Schneider.
Schneider. Okay. So you were doing over the road with Schneider for how long?
I was there a year and a half. So I applied. I was living in Florida back in August, and I applied, and they were like, nope, you live too far south. We don't hire. They have like this invisible line through like Orlando, and they said any solo drivers, don't even bother applying. So I had to move back to Indiana with some stay with an aunt and uncle. Apply with Indiana to get my Indiana driver's license and then my Indiana CDL learner's permit. Then I had to reapply at Schneider, and then they sent me up there on a Greyhound bus to Green Bay.
Okay. And then you started with Schneider, year and a half. Like, were you just running anywhere, or was there like a specific route you had?
I was, for just under a year, I was doing just like OTR solo, and then I kept running into this same guy over and over again at the operating centers, this guy Shane, and we kind of hit it off, and we were like, they have this new program called Home Run, where you drive for 2 weeks, and then you're home for a week, and then you're like swapping with 2 other teams. And so we teamed together, and we did Home Run for a bit, and it was nice because like you do get a lot of home time, but that 2-week window, if there's anything that goes wrong, like shipper delays, receiver delays, truck breakdowns, whatever, you get nothing. You're making no money. So that 2-week window really sucked trying to maximize your earnings. So we split up.
Are you like a contractor for them? Like because like legally speaking, like aren't you like a full-time employee? Like you should be getting paid for that, or no?
No, so I mean, if you're not driving, you're not making any money.
Really? Okay, so like even if the truck breaks down and you're a company driver, you're not making anything.
No, I mean some places might pay you like breakdown pay or maybe a little bit of detention, but this was back. They just instituted a new pay raise when I started at Schneider, so it was 30 or 32 cents a mile starting, and
Wow.
but there was a catch to it. They got rid of their first year fuel saving bonus and some other little things. So it's like as long as you were moving, you were making pretty decent money at the time. But yeah, any kind of breakdown or I've had loads where I would be in Indiana, they would have a load for me to pick up in Kentucky, go to Texas, and then Texas back up. That would have been a stellar week. And then like the last second they call and they're like, oh no, the customer canceled it. So I'm like, son of a bitch. So you're going from like making $1,200 for the week to like maybe $550 for the week. It was like the earnings were all over the place. I had some weeks where you had 3 loads that had to be lumpered, so you're paying that up front, and then until Schneider gets your paperwork back from them, you're not getting paid for that load. So there's all kinds of ways that they can like hold up your paycheck.
Being a truck driver is brutal.
Yeah, it was. I was in it because I had nowhere else to go. Like I didn't have a job. Like I had a friend lie to me about a job in New York, so I'd already packed my bags, moved out of my apartment, and then I found out he was lying to me. So I was like, oh shit. So I talked to my dad, and I told him everything that happened, and I said, what do you recommend? And he and my mom actually drove for Schneider about 2 or 3 years prior. They didn't last very long. My dad drove for Schneider back in the 90s after he got out of the Air Force, but he only drove for them for a few months just to get a CDL. And then my parents had this idea that they were gonna sell the house and drive the truck and ride out their sunset years on the road, and that lasted about 6 months.
How long did it take you to get your CDL out of curiosity, Justin?
2 weeks.
And was it? Wow, that was faster than me. I thought 4
Yeah.
weeks was.
So
quick.
what they do is like the first 2 days is just like a health assessment. They take your heart measurements. They make you do a stress test. And in that class, it was 72 of us that first day. Within the first 24 hours, half of them were sent home because they're like, you have no business whatsoever. You're walking corpses, basically. You need to like go to a doctor ASAP. So from that 72 over the next 2 weeks, they whittled us down, and it was only 16 of us that passed and got CDLs.
Wait. So they didn't pass a health check? Like their health
Yeah.
was so bad that they didn't let them on the road?
Yeah, well, so there was a kid there that was like, so I was 25 at the time, and there was this kid that was like 21 or 22, and first thing they do is they take your finger and they stick it in a heart measure or heart rate monitor, and I guess the kid was like a heavy smoker, and like just his resting heart rate alone, they were like, nope, you're out of here.
Wow.
And it was a pretty like diverse pool of applicants. I mean, there was like old people, young people, retail wage slaves like me. There were guys that were former surgeons. It was a weird time in the U.S. economy because it wasn't right when the housing crash happened, but it was like 3 to 4 months prior. So everybody had these like weird vibes going on of like shit's gonna get weird. We got to figure out a way to make some money. What's a good job to get into? And at the time, that was the truck driver shortage was still being pushed around a lot, so everybody was coming into trucking. But the turnover rates back then were still atrocious, just as they are today. So 70, they just in my week class, there was 72 of us. 16 of us only 16 of us passed, and then within the year, I was the only one left still driving.
Wow.
Not driving for Schneider, but like driving period. Like we all added each other on like a Facebook group years ago, and kept in touch. And yeah, everybody bailed out pretty quick.
That's crazy.
And then
So all
Justin,
the training and everything? Go ahead.
Well, when did you finish driving? And I know we're about to finish up here, so we got a last minute to crush it real quick.
Driving for Schneider or driving period?
Driving period. Like, like to give us a quick breakdown, like a 60-second breakdown of your career as a truck driver and why you decided to leave.
Went from Schneider to driving for an owner-operator, so going from like one extreme to the other. Then I got into a job hauling military freight, did that for 4 years. Decided, okay, I'm done with over-the-road. Moved to Philadelphia to look for local work. I did port work out of there, hauling cans out of the Packer terminal. And then I found a job on Craigslist hauling for a mail contractor. Did that for 3 years. So all the mail from Philadelphia to North Carolina, that was me on my truck. And then I kept applying at the post office over and over again. And they finally, after 3 years of applying, I got in. So I was at the post office for 5 years. And then I saw that tweet from Dooner that said, "Hey, come work at FreightWaves." So here I am.
Damn. We got to get you, Justin, just exclusively on Freight Gong Friday and the podcast to talk
Sure.
more about them. But here we are. It's already
an episode.
I guess it's 9 a.m. Central Time. It's 4 p.m. local time for me. I got a meeting right now to run to. Thank you both, and thank you, Elizabeth, for her time today as well, for coming on Freight Gong Friday. We'll be back next week as well. So
We're at
enjoy Friday and the weekend.
205 people watching us, which is awesome. So thank you everybody for tuning in.
What's up, people? All right, everybody, have a good Friday.
Peace out.
See you
Take
guys.
care.